Test, test. Hey guys, how you doing? Let's see. Michelle, Carmen. Am I saying Jana? Is it Jana or Jana? Am I saying that right? Hey, Darren, how you doing? It's good to have you back. Hello, Penny. See. You guys hear me okay? I'm testing out my new got a new set of headphones. Instead of using the microphone, I'm gonna use headphones. You guys hear me okay? Let's see if back's okay. Some days are good, some days are bad. It's today's a little bit stiff, but I mean the weather here in California is just dismal. Um, just generally when it's cold and wet, my my back is stiff. And I actually had a back procedure when I was 26 years old. I don't know what it is about the number 26, but I was 26 when I had back surgery, and then now I'm 52, which is 26 times two. So I don't really know what the whole deal is with the number 26 in my back, but um, after I had my laminectomy on L4, or excuse me, L5S1 back in 1996, I always had a little bit of back stiffness when the weather got really cold or funky like it is today. So I kind of expected it would be a little bit brutal. But I'm doing physical therapy, kind of physical therapy. I'm working with it's physical therapy, but the guy that I'm working with is a trainer, and the most relief I get is when I stretch. But it's difficult to sit. That's the thing that hurts me the most is sitting. Um, but the more I stretch and the more I do things, the better I feel. But I'm doctor says that I'm probably going to be experiencing some nerve uh, uh, nerve damage or whatever you want to call it for, I don't know, maybe another 4 to 6 months. So I'm just one of those things I just kind of have to deal with. How you doing, Rita? Hmm. Let's see. It's a little bit better. I don't know why I had called Doug. I should have done that. Thank you, Tiffany. I appreciate that. I should use all the prayer I get. I promise you. Hey, buddy, just making sure that you are uh, you're available or you're going to be there on time because I know you had to be in Fallbrook. Okay, excellent. I'll see you too. You got it. Goodbye. Tinkerbell. I hadn't seen you in a minute. Um, I Rita, I had the herniation that I just had was on L4, L5. So it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. Um, so Doug is just pulling into his place where he'll be joining us shortly. I had the first Rita for me the first one I had was a laminectomy, and then the second one it was a little bit more of a I opted for it wasn't experimental, but it was a procedure that we it, it's uncommon. They was more of a endoscopic procedure where they went in and removed some pieces of weight out of my back, out of my channel. It's quite unique. But I'm still in pain. Good afternoon, War Hamster. The War Hamster is in the house. Let's see. Is it raining down in your neck of the woods, Mr. Hamster? Really? They're going to do a laser procedure on your back, Tiffany? Yeah, it's pretty bad up here too. Um, it's really, really bad. Interesting. I'd actually like to talk to you, Tiffany. Um, they're going to remove a small piece of your nerve. Yes, Tracy. I can only imagine you're having some moisture. That's a nice way to say it. Down in your neck of the woods. I'm sure the river is doing very has a lot of water in it today. What Rita, you said holistic stuff. Are they is it just actually I'd like to talk to you too. I'd be curious to see what you're doing. Right now, my primary goal is just to strengthen the muscles and get flexible. Oh, very nice. Rage and smirk. Yeah, my email, just send it to my email, ronpartain@gmail. Tiffany. And read it too, ronpartain@gmail. Just shoot me an email with your contact. Don't want to put it on in the chat. Hold on one sec. Sir. No link. Okay, let me do another one then. All right. Here, I'll just put it in here. I just put it in the chat. Yeah, it's no fun, Tracy. And here is Douglas. Douglas V. Gibbs. Heavy on the V.
Heavy on the Virginia.
Heavy on the V. So what's up there, Mr. Gibbs? Did you have to fight a torrential downpour to get to your house?
Yeah, torrential downpour there and torrential downpour back. Got lots of traffic back, but
was it did you have to get
and
a
I
boat?
left at 5 after 2, so it took me about 20 to 25 minutes longer than normal.
I figured it would.
So
are you going to Capo tonight?
Am I going to where?
Capistrano or no, not tonight. So
no, they're done for the year. They reignite next year. Now we goofed off way too much last week,
yes,
so
we're
going to get real serious today. So those of you who are like, oh man, Doug's not sure where the FBI is supposed to be. Hey, I know the way things are supposed to be, not the way they whatever. All right.
Hey, let me before we get started though, let me guys, this is this right here is let's see if I can get it in there. So
Basic Constitution.
That's the Basic Constitution book. This is Doug's book. One of them, but this is the book on essentially what he does is he goes through this whole book with this is his commentary on the Constitution. So if
that's the second book I wrote, and it's based on the handouts for the classes.
Right. So reading this actually will if you guys really want to get the most out of the class, highly recommend you pick up a copy of one of those. So
got a new book that hasn't shown up on Amazon yet, but should any time now, called Creator. So my 8th book is finally out. I just haven't seen it pop up online yet. I'll have plenty of copies in my hot little hand in January for those who see me live. So Creator really goes over what we need to do and why it's important for us to have a spiritual foundation. So that's book number 8. And then I've got a whole slurry of smaller books I'm going to put out first of the year. I'll explain once that happens, maybe in the next month or something. But good to be here. Good to see you.
Just wanted to one last thing I wanted to tell you is the war hamster. The war hamster is in the chat today. He's watching us live.
As I keep an eye on us because of last week was so out of control. So if anybody is calling anybody a bunch of clowns, that'll be the war hamster. So
yeah. So anyway, well, I'm going to shut up and I'm going to let you just go with it today because we did.
You're a problem. You're out of control.
I know. I'm like a high school girl.
High school. Yeah. Hey, I'm all dressed up because see, it's cold and so sweaters.
I have my you see what you see.
Woke, but with a Q.
Yeah.
That's a cult, I hear.
Yeah, something like that.
I
don't know. If loving my country is a crime, then I'm guilty as charged.
There you go. All right, U.S. Constitution. We last week had introduction to the Constitution. Well, kind of, sort of. Plus, we talked about a few other things like departments and things like that. But we really need to now get into the actual language of the Constitution. So today we're going to talk about the preamble. So for those of you who've gone through the Constitution with us before, this is kind of now a repeat, but you need to hear it again because it helps hammer it down. And one of the things that my students have noticed is every time I go to the Constitution, it's not exactly the same because sometimes because of what's going on in the world, I might add a little tidbit that I didn't the time before just because of what's currently going on in the world. So there may be slight differences, but it's essentially the same. For those of you who have not gone to the Constitution with us before, glad that you're here. Thanks for being with us. Before I really start reading, my website, douglasvgibbs.com, been doing a lot of work. I want to make it a resource site. So I've added a page called library. So if you go to douglasvgibbs.com/library, I'm just putting it together. So it's not a whole lot of stuff ready right now. But in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to populate it with a lot of data, a lot of information, everything I talk about, everything I write about. There's going to be links that you can look it up online available to you. It'll be the ultimate online resource for constitutionalists, or at least that's the goal. That's the plan. All right. So Constitution of the United States preamble. Preamble was an afterthought. The Constitution had already been written when they wrote this. So it's not like they wrote this and got, okay, I wonder what we're going to put in here. Well, let's write this intro first. No, they had written the whole Constitution. Then they said, you know what? We need a preamble. Preamble is an introduction. It is not legally binding. It is not the actual legal part of the Constitution. What it's for is to basically introduce the Constitution and let you know what it's all about. The Constitution's preamble is broken up into 4 parts. It has an introduction, the reasons for writing the Constitution, the results that are expected to be achieved once if the federal government does its job, and then the conclusion. So the introduction begins with 3 of the most iconic words in American history, if not world history: we the people. When you hear we the people, you know it's uniquely American. You know it has something. Even if you don't know it's from the Constitution because you're one of those snowflakes out there who can't figure things out, you know it's American. You know we the people is important. I can't count how many people I've talked to, and I mentioned we the people, and they think it's in the Declaration of Independence. It's hilarious, but it's the first 3 words of the preamble of the Constitution: we the people, because these delegates in this convention, that's who they're representing. That's who they're there for. We the people of the United States. So now that second part's key, because not just we the people. People hear we the people and they think, oh, democracy. No. We the people of the states that are united. We the people of the United States. So we've got people there, but they're not we the people of anything other than their state. They're representing their states and their states that are united in this new union. So we the people of the United States in order to. When you hear the words in order to, you know something else is coming, a reason. So when you're out in public, it says, I did that in order to, well, you know, what's coming next is the reason, right? Why they did what they did. So we, the people of the United States, in order to, that's our introduction. In order to is getting ready to tell us why the Constitution was written. In order to form a more perfect union, reason number one, form a more perfect union. You know, when I first was learning this stuff, when I was a young man and I heard more perfect, and I thought to myself, what a strange way of putting it. How can you make something more perfect? I mean, if it's perfect, it's perfect, right? Perfection is like the highest notch. So how can it become more? That's like giving 110%. How can you really literally give 110%, right? You can't do more than 100. Or, you know, it's like, you know, my wife, you know, when she was pregnant, thinking, oh, how can we make her more pregnant? No, it's not going to happen, right? She's pregnant. It just is. So more perfect, there's something there we're missing. Well, when we talk about, let's say 110%, we're speaking figuratively. We don't really mean we're going to get more than 100%. What we mean is we're going to do so well that we're going to go beyond what we think is the best we can do. So my first thought was, okay, so with this Constitution, they want to make the Union more than what they thought the best they could do was. Well, what was the prior Union about? What did they think was already perfect? And that was the Union under the Articles of Confederation. And they thought it was pretty perfect. They thought it was pretty good. But because of Shays' Rebellion, they realized that it wasn't good enough. Shays' Rebellion being when the Revolutionary War veterans rebelled. They were upset. Their money that they've been paid by the Continental Congress under the Articles of Confederation was their creditors weren't accepting it. There was something wrong there. They didn't know why, and we'll get into that in a minute. And I'm sure Warhamster is grinning about now because it's stuff we've talked about. But so they're getting paid this money that's worth. The creditors aren't taking it. What do? Wait a second, man. This country wouldn't be a country if it wasn't for us. And we're paid this junk. The creditors won't take it. Now the creditors are threatening to sue us because we're unable to pay our bills with this junk that you've given us, this paper money from the Articles of Confederation Continental Congress. And the creditors like, well, yeah, we're going to sue you. And so the veterans, being no fools, start blocking the steps of the courthouses. Can't sue someone if you can't get to the judge. So, and it became a confrontation, a very dangerous situation that ultimately led to the merchants of Boston hiring mercenaries to break this all up and take down those who are in their way. That's a dangerous situation, and the government could not do anything about it. So in 1786, August of 1786, a bunch of delegates got together at the Annapolis Convention, said, hey, we've got a problem here. As good as we thought the Articles of Confederation are, they're falling short. Now that we're trying to apply this system, this government, we're realizing it's not working out so well. We need to either fix the Articles of Confederation or write a new constitution. So word went out that in May of 1787, they were going to meet in Philadelphia to hammer this out. The last of the states agreed to participate by January of 1787. Remember, the original meeting was in August of 1786. It was at that time that James Madison began to create the framework of what the convention would be about and what this Constitution might be about. No, he did not write the Constitution before it was written. What he did is he hammered out some framework ideas. Hence the reason why he's the father of the Constitution. So by the time May came around, he was ready to roll. So the Union wasn't working well under the Articles of Confederation. They needed to make what they thought was perfect better. And I was talking to a pastor one time about this, and the pastor said, well, you know, this is a biblical idea of something being more perfect, trying to make something more perfect. I'm like, really? He says, yeah. And a matter of fact, and I still need to ask him about that verse, and I saw him today and I forgot to ask. I said, well, what does it really mean from a biblical standpoint? He said, more complete. To make a more perfect union is to make a more complete union. If you're using the biblical ideas, you're looking at it from a biblical viewpoint. You know what? That makes total sense based on what I've read from the founders. It is right in line with what they were trying to tell me. I just didn't get it at first. So a more perfect union is a more complete union. Well, how can it be more complete with a government that's a little bit bigger, can handle these external things? But we got to be careful. Everybody's worried now. They're hearing, whoa, they're going to do what? Make a bigger government? We just fought big government in that war. We just got rid of the tyranny of big government. Why do we want to create one for ourselves? In fact, the anti-federalists, the people who wound up standing against the Constitution, were scared to death of it. You are creating the potential for tyranny that we don't want to be a part of, they said. And the framers of the Constitution are like, whoa, wait a second. No, we are going to cage and restrain this government. The way I like to put it is, under the Articles of Confederation, what we had was a lamb. What we needed was a lion. Problem with lions is lions eat people. So how do you create a lion, but you keep it from eating everybody? You put it in a cage, you put shackles on its ankles. The Constitution is that cage and those shackles. You create a bigger government, the federal government, but you put so many limitations on its authorities that it can't eat you. But it's big enough and powerful enough that when you need to unleash it on the enemy or on certain situations, it's big enough and powerful enough to do it. But there's a fine line there between a system that's big enough to help you out, but not too big to be tyrannical. It's that fine line. Gerald Ford, I can't remember where he originally got the quote, but he's the last one I know used a quote that says, a government big enough to give you everything is big enough to take everything away. So we have to be aware that big government can be dangerous, but we needed some type of big government to handle external issues, war with other countries, disputes between the states, things like Shays' Rebellion and so forth. So that's the purpose of a more perfect union, a more complete union, something that's more complete, that's able to function the way that we need it to function so that the union can be protected, preserved, or promoted. But its only authorities will be regarding the union. The internal order of the states, the internal operations of the states, the internal safety and needs and rights of the people and so forth. That's all up to the states. None of the federal government's business. The anti-federalists are arguing, hey, this government's going to get involved in state business. Framers, are basically saying no, because we didn't allow it to. Anti-federalists, basically, their response basically was, since when has a big government ever restrained itself based on what it's allowed to do? And so people like George Mason, after the Constitution was written to have a more perfect union, a more complete union, refused to sign it because he believed it would be even more complete with a Bill of Rights. When we get to the Bill of Rights, we'll get more into that. So reason number one, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, a more complete union. Reason number two for creating this new system, establish justice. That's what it says in the preamble, establish justice. Did justice not exist? Why does it need to be established? Justice did exist at the state level. The states have their own justice systems. They have their own court system. They have their lawyers, their judges, and so forth. So then why is it establishing justice? Well, it's establishing justice on a larger scale at the federal level. A justice system that can handle interstate disputes, that can handle law that comes up regarding federal authorities, maritime law, and so forth. So establish justice. Now, I know when I mention maritime law, I know there's a lot of folks out there that get nervous because they believe we're on maritime law. And I want to say two things about it real quick. Number one, that's not true. We're not following maritime law rules and regs. Number two, the fringe on the flag does not mean it's a maritime law flag. The fringe is actually that yellow fringe, it's basically dressing up the flag. The first time it was done was in the late 1800s. The Army did it. Basically, they had a dress uniform function, and they felt that the flag needed to be dressed up as well. So they put the fringe on the flag. It was eventually accepted as a acceptable etiquette for the flag years later, as showing that the flag is in its dress or formal condition. But that's what the fringe means. It's just basically dressing up the flag. It was never meant to mean anything else. So for those of you who believe that makes it a maritime flag, I beg to differ.
You're going to get some pushback on that.
I know I am. I've got the Scott McKay audience largely here, and I know Scott's all into that stuff. And
yeah,
hey,
you're gonna.
You know what the wonderful thing about America? We can disagree, and it's okay. But yeah. I've done a lot of research on this because, see, here's the thing: I don't take things lightly, and so when someone sends something my way, I don't say yes, I don't say no.
I want to say with respect, Mr. Constitution, I got
a drink for this. No, it's not beer, it's apple juice.
No, I have an inclination that you entered into that research with a biased mindset.
No, I didn't actually. No? I didn't know. I didn't know what the fringe meant. I didn't know if it was maritime law, and I just wanted to know.
Okay.
And I'd heard it so many times.
There's some pretty smart people out there who disagree with you on that.
Yeah, I know.
So would you say that is, I think it's more of your opinion. I don't think anybody, I think there's some people who do know and some people who think they know.
Well, I'm going by what by things that happened, nonpartisan type writings. And actually where I originally found it was a book I have about military etiquette and things like that. And I have it up in Oregon right now, where most of my books are at the moment. But and it's from like the 1930s or 20s or something like that. And it talks about the history of the flag and the history of this, history of that. It's about military etiquette. And that's where I found it originally. Then I looked it up.
Well, I get, and say, let me just play devil's advocate here, because there's a lot of information about that they would not have wanted the people to know. So they would have passed it kind of like they did the Federal Reserve Act. That just passed it in the dead of night, and ultimately we get to see it. But it was,
I get that. I get that. Here's the thing.
They're not going to broadcast that they've done that. And on the surface,
but it doesn't change anything.
Well, the government hasn't been following the Constitution. You know that.
Right. But what I'm saying is, if we're under maritime law or not, doesn't change anything. They still use the courts to misconstruct and usurp and abuse the Constitution, whether it's maritime law or judicial review or whatever.
Sure.
So to me, it doesn't really change anything. So
we're not going to.
So even if I'm wrong, they're right, they're wrong, I'm right, it doesn't matter. Yeah. In the end, getting back to the original intent of the Constitution is still the necessity.
Right. Agreed. And so since we've been derailed a little bit, Conservative Cowboy wanted to know if you could quickly explain, because you were talking about justice, quickly explain what the power of the sheriff is.
The sheriff is is your highest ranking local constitutional officer, and the last line of defense against unconstitutional actions by your state or by your federal government. The federal government is not supposed to operate in a county without the permission of the sheriff. That includes all agencies. And a sheriff, like the people, because he's elected by the people, is a final arbiter of the Constitution. So if he feels that a law is unconstitutional, unlawful, then he may choose not to enforce it.
Okay, so let me.
Well, I was going to tell you that the idea of a sheriff goes all the way back to Old England.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say. So, what then in the line of, in that vein, what where is a deputy sheriff fall in the line there? Does the deputy sheriff doesn't have the same authority that the sheriff does, or is
No,
he
but they're his helpers. They're there to assist.
He's an agent. He's an agent of the sheriff.
Right, man.
But
He's supposed to follow the policies of the sheriff.
Right. Okay.
Don't like it, go work for a different sheriff.
Right. Okay. Okay.
I've actually written a couple of articles on it, and I have a video somewhere on it. I'm in the process of cataloging all of my videos better on my website. But if you go to youtube.com/Douglas V. Gibbs or bitshoot.com /Douglas V. Gibbs, and you look long enough, you'll find my constitutional sheriff video. It's on one of them. I believe it's on both. But I did do a video that's specifically about the constitutional sheriff. If you find it, yes, please stick the link in the chat room. As I spent a lot of time talking about it. Matter of fact, Sheriff Mack, runs the Constitutional Sheriffs and and Peace Officers Association, CSPOAC. Or OC, yeah, something like that. But anyway, he's a friend of mine. I've known him for years and years and years, but we've really gotten to know each other really well over the last about year and a half, 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we did an event together last April, as a matter of fact, 2 events together, like a couple days apart. But he's on the right track. If that's where that comes from, Sheriff Mack is definitely leading the way on that idea that the sheriff really is your constitutional officer and your last line of defense against unconstitutional actions by the states and the federal government. Your sheriff is an important person, and he doesn't answer the state. He doesn't answer the county supervisors. He answers to you. He was elected.
Right.
All right. Back on target. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility. I love talking about ensure domestic tranquility. Number one, do you like the way they spelled ensure? It's not E-N-S-U-R-E, it's I-N-S-U-R-E, like insurance. Like, we're going to make sure, man. This goes way beyond just ensuring it. We're going to insure it. But ensure domestic tranquility, tranquility being the capitalized word, the key word here. When I talk about the states and I explain that they fought each other, I want to bring up 2 things. Number one, and you've brought this up before, Ron, and I want to kind of go back to it. What was the purpose of the militias? To defend the states against foreign enemies and each other.
Each other. Yes. Thank you.
So because they weren't getting along. They were these little countries that bickered over everything. They bickered over turf, where the line of borders between them were. They had protectionist laws to protect their manufacturing and their trade and their commerce. I mean, it was interesting. And to help people understand, though, the dynamic going on, because they fought like cats and dogs, but yet they were there for each other as a union. It was a very interesting dichotomy. And the only way I can help people understand it is to talk about my brother and my sister. My brother and sister and I fought like cats and dogs growing up. I'm the oldest. My sister's 4.5 years younger than I am. My brother's 9 years younger than I, 4.5 years younger than my sister. So he was just an annoyance for me. When I moved out at 18, he was only 9 years old. So I barely remember him as a kid. I really didn't get to know him until we worked in construction together. And then we couldn't stand each other and kept getting into fights until we finally decided we were family and shouldn't fight. But my sister here is the key part of this conversation. So I gave her hell until that time I moved out. And then I moved out, and then my brother was old enough to start giving her hell. And our sister, for the longest time, you say, I will never love my brothers. After a while, she finally decided, I can tolerate Doug, but I'll never love Randy. I think she still feels that way about Randy. By the way,
really?
They both live a mile and a half apart in Arizona now. It's really weird. But anyway, so my sister and I used to fight so much. One time my mom's going through my hair. She's brushing my hair or something. And she's like, Jerry, come over here. Take a look at this. My dad comes over. So Doug's got bald spots. My sister had been ripping so much hair out of my head when we fought. And I had pretty long hair when I was a kid. So it was easy to grab onto. She was ripping out so much hair that it was causing me to have bald spots. That's pretty brutal. Now I got back at her. One time I grabbed her by the long locks of hair in her ears and slammed my, God blessed me with, Bucky Beaver front teeth there, too big for my mouth, man. I slammed those suckers in her forehead. 5 stitches later, she quit pulling my hair out. So, but that's how we fought. But hey, Doug, there's a kid, bully picking on me at school. Take me to it. Big brother was there for her. So we fought like cats and dogs, but yet when push came to shove, we were there for each other. That's the way these colonies and states were early on. They fought like cats and dogs over everything, but when push came to shove and they needed to be in a union to defeat the British, among other things, they were there for each other.
Well, see, that's kind of like what we in the Navy have to do with our fellow brothers in the Marines.
Yeah, we're like siblings, man. You want to hear military guys rib each other? Put a Marine and a sailor in the room together. That's good stuff.
That was at you, Devil Dog.
Yeah.
I love you, brother.
You know what Marine stands for, right? My ass rides in Navy equipment. But anyway, yeah. So, but that's the way it was with states, right? They're fighting like cats and dogs. Navy is never again volunteer yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. But anyway, so you have a situation where the states are fighting. There's disagreements, and there's no mediator to resolve it. So the federal government's there to be a mediator, to ensure domestic tranquility, to make sure they're not fighting with each other. But then that's also twofold, because really you've got the other reason for this, and that is the Shays Rebellion. So there's more domestic tranquility. So domestic tranquility in the streets and domestic tranquility between the states. You were laughing. Did someone just type something?
Thanks, taxi. He's calling us a taxi service. Devil Dog was calling us a taxi service.
Well, yeah. I've got a friend of mine who served in the Marine Corps. And what's funny is whenever we go anywhere, I'm always the one driving. It's hilarious. But now my second ship that I was stationed on, real quick side note, was an LST, tank landing ship. And the older Marines know what an LST is, with the derrick arms out in the front, flat bottom, piece of junk.
I was on an LHA.
And my friend Harry, he had spent one of his cruises out to the Middle East on an LST. And I asked him, I said, hey man, when you're on that LST, what'd you think? And he said, thank God I joined the Marine Corps. Says that ship was making noises boats aren't supposed to make. He says, I'm walking down the corridor and I could see it twisting as this thing's rocking back and forth. I said, well, dude, flat bottom, it wasn't rocking back and forth. It was rocking wherever the hell it wanted to.
Exactly. Well, I my side note, I when I initially got out of A school, I was on the USS New Jersey, which is a battleship.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine on the Jersey.
And I was on that ship until it got decommissioned in January of 91. Well, when to finish off my time, they put me onto the Peleliu, which was an LHA, and that was a flat bottom ship. So I went from a ship that was essentially, we were in 40-foot seas in the Aleutian Islands, and we were doing maybe 8-degree rolls, maybe. So, which if you don't know what that means, it's like we were very stable in the water, even in the high seas.
Right.
But when I was on the Peleliu, man, that ship was a flat bottom. We'd be in like 10-foot seas, and it'd be like it would be like in a hurricane. It was bad.
And the thing is about the Peleliu is it was heavier and bigger than the LSTs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So as rough as that got, the LST was like a little toy paper boat in the water.
Right.
Or a cork in the water, really. But so the LSTs being lighter really got. I remember we had a watch on the front of the ship that kept going underwater, and so they decided to take care of the situation. Navy intelligence, no, you don't bring him in. You strap him in. Guy kept going underwater, man, but don't worry, he was strapped in. We weren't going to lose him at sea. But anyway. Yeah, but anyway, all right, back to where we're at here. So we've got more perfect union, established justice, domestic tranquility. Reason number 4, provide for the common defense. Provide the common defense. When the Revolutionary War was going on, the militias, understand, belong to each state. So when the Continental Congress or George Washington wanted certain things to happen, the first response was, well, does my state agree? Let me check with the state first and see what. It wasn't a unified army in the beginning. It wasn't a continental army yet. It was a bunch of militias. And it was, and the militias really weren't even well trained or anything. They were just a bunch of angry colonists that were ready to just take it to the British, man. You know, angry mob, if you want to look at it that way, who really probably couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with their shots. They really didn't have any military experience or the stamina to march to where they needed to march. They couldn't march. But you know what? They were hopeful and they were on fire and they were getting their butts killed. And so it wasn't until George Washington and Congress unified and created an army, a continental army of regulars. And they created the battalions and the companies and so on and so forth, and they organized it, that we began to turn that war around. And that common defense was a unified military, not a bunch of militias. So to provide for the common defense means a unified military, an army, a navy, a Marine Corps, and yeah, I guess we'll throw Air Force and Coast Guard in there. But I just offended every Air Force and Coast Guard guy out there. But I love you guys too. You guys are awesome. But you guys weren't around in the beginning.
Do you remember?
Well, actually, Coast Guard was, but they were like the lighthouse men and stuff like that. But anyway,
do you remember the old Air Force commercials when we were kids?
I'm trying to remember. Go ahead.
A great way of life.
Oh. Well, yeah, because they didn't go to boot camp. They went to summer camp.
Right, exactly. So what we used to, because when I was in the Navy, I was a weatherman, and they trained all of the services. They trained together for the weather because it's pointless. It
wasn't out there in Pensacola, was it?
No, initially it was in Rantoul, Illinois, which Chanute Air Force Base, and then
Pensacola has all four services too. But go ahead anyway.
Well, they ultimately, when Chanute closed after the base closings in the early '90s, they moved it down to Biloxi, Mississippi. But anyway, I digress. The point is that what we used to do is we used to call the guys in the Air Force the chair force, a great waste of life.
Wow,
it's pretty brutal. But like you, I love all my Air Force brothers.
Yeah, well, my son-in-law is in the Air Force, so I can't hammer on him too much because I want him to take good care of my daughter. But yeah. Anyway. Of course, when he showed up in a camouflage uniform one time, I was confused. Why does the Air Force need a camouflage uniform? But not that the Navy does either. But
yeah, exactly. When they went to those the blueberries, there's like, what?
Yeah, I mean, they looked cool, but yeah, they should have stuck with the dungarees. But anyway,
agreed.
Once again, back on target. So a common defense is, well, what we're talking about, right? The Army, Navy, and all that other stuff. And Marine Corps and so forth. And Marine Corps is the only military service in history that was founded in a pub. But anyway, because to create something like that, I guess you got to be drunk. But anyway. That goes out to you, Devil Dog. But anyway, but anyway, so common defense. The states will be contributing their personnel, but it's a common unit, a common military that's for the country, not for the states. It's not a militia, it's common defense. So once again, we the people of the United States, in order to, for reasons, form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense. If those four things are being met, among other things, then there are two results that will happen. That's what's next. To promote the general welfare and secure the blessings of liberty. The first one is promote the general welfare. General welfare, I almost said warfare. Welfare appears twice in the Constitution. In the preamble, and which is part of the introduction, it is not legally binding. And in Article 1, Section 8, where the general welfare clause is, or as I like to say, because Conyers was so hilarious, he used to call it the good and welfare clause. General welfare clause is not an excuse to do what they want. It's a result. It is a condition that will be met. It is an environment that happens if the federal government's doing its job. That's why in the preamble, it doesn't say that they're going to provide it, but that it promotes it, promotes general welfare.
I'm gonna read the 1828 Webster Dictionary of Welfare.
Okay.
Okay. Exemption from misfortune, sickness, calamity, or evil, the enjoyment of health, and the common blessings of life, prosperity, happiness applied to persons. Also, exemption from any unusual evil or calamity, the enjoyment of peace and prosperity, or the ordinary blessings of society and civil government applied to the states.
Well put. I like to say it this way: a condition of all's well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, but welfare.
But that's exactly right.
Welfare. This is what they meant by welfare, not. But what we in the United States now in 2020, yeah, they apply 2020 nomenclature on the.
Now that definition you gave, though, yeah. Congress will use that definition and say, "Oh, well, we're passing this law in order to reach that."
Yeah.
So that's our excuse. No, that's not a reason. General welfare is a condition that is met if the federal government's doing its job. So that's result number one. Result number two, as I mentioned, is secure the blessings of liberty. But there's more to it than just secure the blessings of liberty. That it says to ourselves and our posterity. First of all, what is the blessings of liberty? Well, blessings is something that God would give. Liberty is not only your freedom, but liberty is also the first stated right in the Declaration of Independence. The blessings of liberty, therefore, would be your natural rights, your God-given rights, your gift from God. And since it is a gift from God, government's got no business getting involved, but they do have one role regarding your blessings of liberty: to secure them. You'll notice the word secure used in the preamble: secure the blessings of liberty. If you go to the Declaration of Independence, I'll wait. All right, long enough. So if you go to, you better flip pages. If you go to the Declaration of Independence, it says that governments are, among these, talk about your rights. You are endowed with certain rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that to secure these rights, there's that word secure again, secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. So government's job is to secure your rights. That's the only thing they are allowed to have anything to do when it comes with your rights, is to just secure them. But we're told in today's vernacular, protect your rights and guarantee your rights. In fact, I hear conservatives all the time say, well, the Constitution is there to protect my rights, and the government's there to protect my rights. The Constitution and the government is not there to protect your rights.
Warhamster just piped in. He says, if we ever get our Article 5 convention, the General Welfare Clause is one of several that need clearer articulation.
I agree. Clarification. And I think all of the amendments should start with the words, Congress shall make no law.
Right.
Just like the first one. First Amendment begins, Congress shall make no law. It don't get much more clear than that. Mm-mm. Of course, they still screw it up. That's beside the point. All right, so secure the blessing. And I said, well, they're not there to protect your liberty, and people get upset when I say that. Well, when it came to the Roman Republic, when the Roman Republic was a republic and it was working with the people, the Roman soldiers who acted also as law enforcement were what? They worked with you. They were there to protect you. They were there to enforce the law, and they were parts of the community, sort of like our police used to be. Then when Rome went from being a republic to an empire, the soldiers went from members of the community to help keep it a orderly society to enforcers of the tyrant law. And so they went from being the friend to the enemy. Now, could you imagine at that point, when the Roman soldier became the greatest threat domestically? One jumping in front of you, holding up their shield, say, "Don't worry, I'll protect you against me." Well, obviously, that's crazy. You don't want the person who's the greatest danger trying to protect you. They're the danger. Who's the greatest danger against your rights? Government. So why do we want them protecting our rights? If they're the greatest danger, if they're the greatest threat to our rights, we don't want them protecting our rights. They're not there to protect them anyway. The rights are already where they belong, in our possession. They're ours. If they need protecting, it's going to be by me and you and whoever else owns their rights. As for the word guarantee, they go, well, we're going to guarantee your rights. We're going to guarantee you education. We're going to guarantee you healthcare. And I'm like, oh, you're going to guarantee my gun? And they're like, well, no. Well, then guarantee is not an appropriate definition. Because if you were there to guarantee my rights, it would apply to all of my rights. If you're not going to guarantee a gun, then you're not there to guarantee anything else either. So protect and guarantee are not proper. The word secure is proper. Secure our rights. S-E-C-U-R-E. Well, what do you mean, Doug? The way I like to explain it best is I use two examples. Number one, car seat. You put your small child in a car seat, you latch them in, you hit the buckles, you make sure they're comfortable, not because you want to protect the child. I mean, they will be protected, but that's not the reason. You protect the child by not driving like an idiot. But no matter how well you think you drive, accidents are still possible. So the car seat is not there to protect the child as much as to secure the child, to keep the child in place so they don't go flying through the windshield if you get in an accident. Secure. While protection may be a part of what happens, secure means to keep where it belongs.
Let me read the 1828. There's a lot of them on here, but I think the specific one that goes with this is to make certain, to put beyond hazard, liberty and fixed laws secure to every citizen, due to protection of persons and property. The first duty of the highest interest of men is to secure the favor of God by repentance and faith, and thus secure to themselves felicity or future felicity. Anyway,
but the word fixed is an important part there.
Well, that was an example. But
Yeah.
the definition is to make certain, to put beyond hazard, liberty and fixed laws secure to every citizen.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Put beyond hazard.
put beyond
So
hazard.
how does the government secure your rights?
By
They
not
restrain themselves first, and then they restrain others. And when they say restrain others, we don't mean the way we think today, the way they thought then. I have, you've heard me say this before, I've got the freedom to swing my arms. My freedom to swing my arms stops at the tip of Ron's nose if I was in the same room. If I was in the same room, I'm swinging my arms, I got too close, I'd punch him in the nose. Well, he has a right not to be punched in the nose. So while I do have a right to swing my arms, I don't have a right to swing them into his nose. So I'm supposed to be responsible with my rights. I'm not supposed to go beyond what's the right thing to do with my rights. And that's self-evident according to the Declaration of Independence. These truths are self-evident. We know what right and wrong is.
Yes.
I know that I'm allowed to swing my arm, so I know I'm not supposed to swing him into his nose. But if I do, and I violate his right and I punch him in the nose, that's where government gets involved because his right's been violated. But until then, it's none of their business. They're not supposed to make a law telling me I can't swing my arms. They don't get involved until after he got punched in the nose. Secure the blessings of liberty. Then it says to ourselves and our posterity. Remember I was talking about capitalization earlier, and this is a long discussion I have with people sometimes, especially those who want to disagree with me. If you read the writings of the time and the tendencies, especially with the founding documents, the Bill of Rights and the Constitution and parts of the Declaration, is that they capitalized words that they believed deserved emphasis. Now, one of the response I get from a lefty is, well, they capitalized all the nouns. No, they didn't. They capitalized some of the nouns. Oh, well, they must have messed up, and some of them they just forgot to capitalize. You really think they wrote this whole Constitution and went, oopsie, I didn't capitalize that word? I don't think so.
No.
So there's a reason some of them are capitalized, some of them are not. And this idea that, well, the Germans used to capitalize all their nouns. Well, we weren't Germans. They didn't capitalize all nouns. They capitalized, though, ones they wanted to put emphasis on. And so in this case, ourselves is lowercase, posterity is capitalized. In other words, what they were writing was secure the blessings of liberty, yeah, to ourselves, lowercase o, but especially to our capital P posterity, those not yet born, those future generations. In other words, my friends, they signed that Constitution for you. They died for you. They put on their line the lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor for you. And what have we done with that gift? How have we treated that gift? How important is that gift that they gave their lives for and their fortunes and their sacred honor? How have we treated it? I hate to say this, but we've done a poor job in honoring the inheritance we were given.
Well, I'm going to agree with you, but I'm also going to respectfully disagree with you from the standpoint that I think people do what is expedient and do what they are taught certain things, and they go along as though with the things that they've been taught, and they think they're doing right because that's
ignorance
how
of the law is no excuse.
I get that. I'm just saying, I do believe that there are some very well-meaning people out there, even on the left, who think they're doing the right thing, but they're not. They haven't dug down deep far enough from a historical perspective to read the founding documents and do all that stuff on their own.
We don't need to, because it says in the Declaration of Independence that it's self-evident.
I know that.
We know what's right and wrong.
I 100% know. I'm just saying that there are some people out there who they
you're
do
giving
believe
way too much credit.
Well, maybe,
I
think that there's because I know a lot of good people out there that they don't know the things that I know.
Yeah, that's true, but they should at least, be sick in their gut because something is wrong. They should know instinctively something's not right.
I agree, but I don't think that. But I don't think they've been sufficiently trained to think for themselves to even go down. What they do is they see themselves in the middle of this huge ocean, flailing and without any land or ship anywhere, and there's no hope of rescue. So they just give up.
Well, ladies, I'm going to apologize ahead of time with what I'm getting ready to say for you. But based on my view of these people and his view of these people, apparently I'm just a bigger dick. All right. All right. Secure the blessing of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Once again, you, posterity, capital P. When I talk about this part of the Constitution, when I give speeches, and by the way, just you can check the calendar page of my website for this. January 8th in the morning, I will be out in Chino for a Tea Party meeting speaking. Everybody's welcome. I want to fill the room. And then on the 10th, I'll be out in Indian Wells for a Rotary Club meeting to speak. So I'm putting them on the calendar.
What is the 8th? What day is the 8th? Is that a Saturday?
January 8th is a Saturday and the 10th is a Monday.
Okay.
Anyway, back to this. And when I talk about this to crowds, ourselves and our posterity, first of all, how many times have you heard these well-meaning leftists out there tell you that the founding fathers are just a bunch of selfish, wealthy, powerful, don't give a crap about anybody else, racist individuals who did it all for themselves? they say differently in the preamble. They tell you right there, lowercase o, yeah, we did it for ourselves, but that wasn't the main reason. The big reason was for you, those not yet, the future generations. The second thing I like to say about it is this: isn't that why we do what we do? I have 7 grandkids. I will pass away soon. Yes, I want this for myself. Yes, I want to correct this because it's important to me. But the bigger reason is them, those grandkids. I want their America to be better than my America. I want their America to be closer to the Constitution. I don't want to be the old guy with a great-great-grandchild on his knee explaining to the kid what America was once like when it was free. I refuse to give that talk. I will do everything I can, everything that's humanly possible. So yes, if it comes down to wielding my firearm or whatever it takes, I'm willing to do it. Now, that said, as a Christian, I'm reminded in Ephesians 6, while my gun is important, my first offensive weapon I was given was a sword, the sword of truth, the word of God, the sword of the Spirit. So while my guns are important, my sword comes first. And so I'm going to fight with that first. And that's what I'm doing.
Well, what do you think the modern day sword is?
I'm sorry?
What do you think a modern day sword is?
I'm talking about the sword of the truth, brother, sword of the Spirit.
Okay. All right.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But see, my first weapon is a sword, is kind of, sword of the Spirit.
The sword of
Ephesians
the-
6, armor of God,
I get it. Right there.
Okay.
Put on the armor of God. Right. I
Well,
get
see,
it.
Ron doesn't feel good, so he's slower than usual, and that's okay.
I feel okay today. I'm not as bad as I was last week.
Yeah. How heavily medicated are you?
I'm not medicated at all.
Yeah. They all think they're not medicated.
I'm really not. Why? What gives you the impression?
I'm joking. I'm
What gives
teasing.
you the impression that I'm medicated?
Man, he is gullible, isn't he, guys? All right. I am medicated, by the way. No, I'm kidding.
I was medicated last night.
Yeah,
Hamster,
well, I medicate at night too, because that's about all I got to do in order to get to sleep. All right.
War Hamster and I and a couple of other friends, we did a little roundtable last night.
See, you get on to me about keeping you up late, but then War Hamster keeps you up late all the time, and you're proud of it.
No. Oh, no. We did it. I think we did it earlier today. I think we started at like 4 and we were done by 5:30.
Okay.
So, but
War Hamster, you're a bad influence.
War Hamster, dude. War Hamster. I could tell him 100 times that my phone goes on do not disturb at 7:00, and it's like it doesn't even phase him. I look down and I'll see a missed call from him at 8:30. So
he'll call me at like 10 or 11.
Yeah, I'll call him back.
Sometimes I'm in bed and sometimes awake, and I'm like, I'm not talking to that dude this late. And sometimes I answer.
He says he's calling me. He's calling BS on me, but I'm not being medicated.
So am I. Okay.
Whatever. I am not medicated today.
All right. Well, all right. So we're getting close to that time. So let's wrap this up. Boy, you're out of control, man. It's got to be the medication. But anyway, all right. So then after our posterity, it says, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. They didn't say produce or propose, ordain. Ordain, that sounds like a godly word, does it? When you become a minister, it's not a simple little thing. You are ordained. It is before God. It is a very special thing. This Constitution was ordained, not just presented. This is something that's given before God. Ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. And it originally did say for the United States of America. That has not changed. So a lot of people want to tell me now that it says of, or I think, or something like that. It's not true.
No. Okay. So, that's a very interesting point, because there's so how do you explain the whole United States is versus the United States are?
That was just a shift in that was a shift in political application of the Constitution after the war between the states, because what happened is we went from a federation of states to a nation in everybody's minds. What happened is we had an overpowering federal government that decided those states misbehaved, and so they need to be kept under control. And it's a very fascinating thing you bring up, because it's very true. We used to be the United States are, we became the United States is. We went from being a federation of states to a national system. I hate the word nationalism, by the way, especially when it's applied to conservatives. They're like, oh yeah, I'm a nationalist, I believe it. No, you're not. Don't embrace that. Nationalism is a love of government. It's a love of a single system controlling everything. I know what you think it means. Oh, well, it means that, I love my country. No, that's patriotism. Nationalism is a single entity controlling everything. This is not supposed to be a national government. This is not supposed to be, we're not really have a national debt. We have a federal debt.
So now you do know that the 1871 people, for sake of conversation, the 1871 people say that the Constitution essentially made the entire thing one, as opposed to a collection of states, because a collection of states would accurately be stated are, because it's
right.
plural.
And that's the way it originally was under the Constitution.
Right.
14th Amendment is what's blamed for turning us into is. But it's a misunderstanding and a misrepresentation, a misapplication of 14th Amendment. 14th Amendment doesn't say what the left says it is. First of all, 1871ers and all you other folks, let's not operate on the premise of the left. The United States are. They can say it is all they want. The United States are.
Okay.
I am not going to operate on their premise. Their premise is wrong there, and I'm not going to argue based on their premise. That one of our biggest difficulties when we get into debates with these people is we fight on their premise, and their premise is wrong. So how can you argue based on their premise if it's wrong in the first place? So I don't even get into that. First of all, I correct their premise. And I tell them, you don't know what you're talking about. The premise is the United States are. We're a federation of states. We are a republic, not a democracy, and we are not a national system. We are a federation of states. That's the premise. I know you're trying to turn it into those things, lefty, and you're almost there. But that's not what was intended, and that's not the argument. I'm not going to sit here and fight over whether or not our democracy should be saved when I know for damn well it's not supposed to be a democracy in the first place.
Well, it chaps my hide every time I hear somebody who, regardless of who they are, talk about our democracy, and I hear politicians at the highest levels talk about our democracy.
Well, even some of my favorite television or radio pundits. I mean, even Tucker Carlson. I'm like, dude.
Exactly. Well, he's not my favorites, but whatever. I get your point.
He's among my favorites, but that's okay. You've been wrong before. See, that's how you handle Ron. You just put him in his place like that. See, he just shuts up and takes a drink of his medication.
I'm going to not say anything because it's 4:01.
I love you. That's why I'm messing with you. If I didn't love you, I would have.
Oh, I'm very well aware.
I wouldn't give a crap about you.
I'm very well aware.
All right, audience. We got through the preamble. It's right at the top of the hour. It's good timing because I've got a wife who has a day off, and she says, "So when do we go to the store? When do we go to the store?" After 4 o'clock.
Go to the store. Go fight the traffic and the.
Well, I've got to buy all the pork products I can.
Yes, I know. You got to buy it. You have to buy as much as you can now.
Exactly. I have a freezer.
I highly recommend people start stocking up on coffee. If you like pork
in California anyway.
But yeah, if you like coffee, go make sure that you have a good 6 months worth of coffee, because it's starting to climb and it's not going to be pretty. So.
And next time I go up to Oregon, I'm buying a lot more ammo.
Yeah.
By the way, you and I talked about a particular firearm. You said I couldn't put together or get one after the first. Yeah, in California.
Yeah. Well.
So I have my other options. NSA, did you catch that?
What's that?
I was just asking the NSA if they caught that.
Oh, they caught it. They catch
Yeah,
everything.
the FBI and NSA is paying attention to this.
They catch everything.
All right. Hopefully they
It's all
catch COVID and
recorded.
die.
It's all recorded and filtered through artificial intelligence and categorized and cataloged. And then if they need somebody to come out and look at it early, then that's when they send the people out. But yeah. Anyway.
All right. The algorithm is in full swing, and I am
Indeed.
proud to be on their surveillance list.
If you are not on a list, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah. Oh, well, I've got friends that they tell me, said, Doug, there's a short folder about that fat about you at the FBI. And I'm like, only that fat?
Exactly.
Thought it was bigger. All right, guys,
all right, guys,
love you.
On that note, we're
audience, you guys are great. I'm glad he's having fun with the chat room. And Devil Dog and Conservative Cowboy and all the rest of you, War Hamster, and anybody else that's there. Thanks,
Tracy and Emma.
Got Stephanie out there in Michigan. I know she's listening, watching.
Let's see here. We got, Tiffany and Conservative Cowboy. You said Devil Dog. Got Raging Smirk.
Raging Smirk.
Cowboy.
I like that.
These are just names. These are just names. And let's see here. I said Tracy. Carmen. And
Alia, while he's figuring you out, I'll just say Alia, love you.
Yeah,
glad you were here. We'll see you next week. I'm going to continue to do this. By the way, if he doesn't want to take a break, I'm not going to take a break through the Christmas season here because I don't have to go anywhere. The classes for the next 2 weeks are off, but this will keep on rolling.
Yeah, I won't take a break unless I think actually on the 4th of January, I think it's the 4th, which I think the 4th is a Tuesday. I think I'm having medical done that day.
So we might miss the 4th.
But maybe, yeah. But if I miss it, I may be able to do it. I may just be a little out of it, but we'll see.
On KMET, by the way, on Christmas Day, that show I'm doing live also. I probably won't have Dennis or Alan with me. Matter of fact, Alan said he'd like to stay married, so he won't join me. But
actually, somebody last week was talking about doing a thing with you and Chris Ann Hall and Sheriff Mack. And if they're not doing anything anytime over the holidays, let's see if we can't put something one of those things together and deal with some of the stuff of the constitutional sheriff thing.
That's a good idea. I'll put out some feelers to both of them.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I got both their phone numbers. I'll text them.
Yeah. And if there's anybody else, just have a little roundtable that we can get on and just talk about constitutional.
I tell you who I would like to be in the same room with or on the same show with. I don't think it'll ever happen. But if anybody wants to try to set it up, knock yourself out, because this is my superstar. Is David Barton.
Well, that was another name that had been thrown out.
Yeah.
So
Chris Ann Hall, met her, know her, she's awesome. Sheriff Mack, friend, met him, he's awesome. David Barton, my hero.
Well, I doubt that they may know David Barton.
They might. I don't. Not yet. But I'm working on it.
Yeah.
I don't get starstruck easy, but I'm starstruck with David Barton. He's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, that would be a fun show if you can. I'll kind of let you take the lead on that. And I think I also may be starting a new. I may be doing a different type of software other than Zoom.
All right, and I've got some products I'm coming out with. So if everybody wants to help with purchasing and getting the word out, matter of fact, I need to do a nice little visit on the Scott McKay show where I'm actually on with him. So so we can catch up with what we've been missing out on over the last 6 months or whatever.
Yeah, he's been really busy. I think he's kind of winding up the tour, but he's got a lot of stuff to catch up on. Probably if anything like that happened, it's probably not going to be until the first of the year.
Yeah, I was guessing that, but I've got a lot of new products coming out, and I'm excited about them. So keep it. So keep. And matter of fact, you know what? If you're not on my email list, get on my email list. Politicalpistachio.com. It's a maroon button. Or if you go to douglasvgibbs.com on the main page on the right, there's an image that says "Be Informed." Click that image; it'll take you to the page. There's a little red arrow kind of flashing towards it. You can't miss it, as they say.
Very nice.
All right,
guys. Well, hey, it was.
I'm out of here.
Glad to see everybody here, and we look forward to seeing you again.